Mother Teresa once spoke about loneliness and the feeling of being unwanted as being the most terrible poverty. Have you ever felt the loneliness of being unwanted, of being unseen, of feeling like you don't matter? If you have, you can relate to a couple of things that I'm going to share with you in the next couple of minutes. Growing up in a dysfunctional family in New York, my greatest dream was to be a part of a family that loved one another and cared for one another and rejoiced in being with one another. And every other summer, my mother and I would spend the summer with my grandmother. And in that same community, my aunt and uncle and their 5 sons lived. And we would see them occasionally during the summer. But I wanted more. I wanted to be a part of what they had. But they had all they needed. They didn't need me. They didn't see me in a way that I desperately wanted to be seen. And so as I grew into adulthood and as I married, I wanted that from my husband's family. I wanted to be a part of that family. It didn't happen. I later realized that during the 20 years that we were married, that I really lived in an emotional desert. There were so many things I wanted, but he drove the bus and I let him. And so there weren't the family vacations. There weren't those family shared experiences that I wanted for me, but also for my kids. And so what we grow up with is our normal. And I knew that growing up in a emotionally barren household that was not healthy, I wanted a household that was filled with communication as well as love. And during the years that he and I, or the months that he and I were engaged, one of the reasons I fell in love with him was I felt that communication. But then things changed. And I'll explain why another day I think they changed. But that communication wasn't there. And so that's the environment that my kids grew up in. And today, I have 3 daughters. Today, I truly am close to one of my daughters. And she has been incredibly wonderful during the times that I have been in and out of the hospital and struggled with health issues. I have another daughter who I have a good relationship with, but it breaks my heart when I see how selfish she is. And I have another daughter who has struggled a great deal and who I have a good but not close relationship with. Consequently, my grandkids weren't raised to prioritize family and family interaction. And I have good relationships with them, but I don't have the closeness with them that I yearned for. Perhaps many of you can relate to the things that I've just shared. I hope not. But from conversations that we have, I know that many of you can. So what do we do about it? Do we simply roll over and pull the covers over our head and say that that is what it is, and I'm going to sit here and cry and feel sorry for myself? That's a choice. It's not my choice. I hope it's not your choice. When the families that we are connected to by blood are not the families that we would choose, we can choose to create families of choice. Several years ago, there was a woman that I had a professional relationship with. I was a department store buyer at the time, and she would call on me as a vendor, and she absolutely annoyed me no end. She made me crazy. But then, when I was going through a divorce, and people that I had been there for, and I thought would be there for me, just were MIA. And Shirley traveled a great deal on business. We were no longer connected in a professional relationship. And yet every week I got a phone call from her from somewhere in the country. She cared. And that really changed me. It changed our relationship. And it changed what I understood about friendship. She would always tell me stories about her best friend so-and-so did this, or her best friend so-and-so was dealing with that. And one day, as I was standing in her living room, I was visiting where she lived at the time, I just looked at her and I said, "Shirley, how many best friends do you have?" Without even stopping to think, she said, "Oh, I don't know, 22 or 23. Most of us are grateful if we have just a handful of best friends. I realized that Shirley had so many best friends because she invested in people, just like she had invested in me. It's hard not to value a relationship when somebody chooses to invest in you. I had another friend that we had been friends for several years, and we would periodically go out for lunch. And then it got to a point in time where the day of or the day before we were planning to go out, she canceled. And after this happened several times, I decided that no, she was not a great friend. She was simply an acquaintance. And that's okay. Just like family, friends may come and go. It's not necessarily what we would choose, but they have the choice, and our choice is what we're going to do about it. And so, as you look around to create a family of choice, a family that respects you, a family that values you, a family that enjoys being with you, what are the attributes that you want in your family? Here are some of the ones that matter to me. I want somebody who keeps commitments. I have no problem with somebody saying, "That's not going to work for me right now, but let's arrange to do it in 2 weeks." And we put it on the calendar, and we do it in 2 weeks. That's being respectful of each of our times. And it is being respectful when we keep that commitment. I value integrity. I don't ever want to be in a position where I feel like I may have to defend somebody who has made a choice that has been wrong, illegal, immoral, hurtful to somebody else. I value energy and enthusiasm. I don't want to have to carry the whole weight of the relationship. I want us to have reciprocity in that relationship. I want us to be excited for one another and enthusiastic about our time together. I want to simply be friends with somebody I trust. Trust is, I think, the most important factor in any kind of a relationship. Trust means that you are not going to betray me. You're not going to betray me by talking about me. You're not going to betray me by sticking a knife in my back. Not physically, well, hopefully not physically, but emotionally or in some other way. Trust is something that is built up over time. And that's why creating great families of choice take time. You've heard me talk about trust, but I'm going to talk about it again for just a minute. Is that trust somebody superficially, and when that's honored, you can trust them at a little deeper level. And when that's honored, you can trust them at a little deeper level, and so on and so on. Trust is built incrementally. When you drop from superficial to great trust, you're really setting yourself up for potentially being hurt. And if you have been hurt by somebody in the past, you know you don't want to go there again. And the solution is not to never trust anybody else. The solution is to learn to trust wisely by trusting incrementally and seeing it honored, and then trusting a bit more. That's the foundation on which to build a great family of choice. We don't have the opportunity to choose our families of birth. We sometimes wind up in marriages or other relationships that fall apart for whatever reason, and we wind up being hurt. But one of the things that we can choose, and it takes time, be patient, are great families of choice. I am so grateful for the family of choice that I have, because in so many ways they fill a void in my biological family and in my nuclear family. Let me know what you are going to do to create a family of choice, or how you have done so and how it has blessed your life.